your mind.
Hello and welcome to Open Your Mind Radio. You have myself, Alan James.
And you have myself, Stephen George. Good evening.
Good evening. It's Sunday the 19th of April 2015 and the sun is shining and everybody's happy and people out in the garden having a beer and all these kind of things going on.
In your garden?
No. The next door neighbours, they didn't invite me.
The next door neighbours, no, you never get invited.
No, you never invite me. Okay, welcome to Open Your Mind Radio. I'd like to just say a big congratulations and thank you, well, not thank you, but big congratulations to the people who marched yesterday in Dublin for the Irish Water protesting. It was unbelievable again to see it. I think the government were concerned that the actual the march and the interest in it was losing momentum. And yesterday was just proof in itself that people are still angry and still not paying and still won't pay the water charge. And I think there's a few bills burnt as well, I believe.
And people are still united. I think that's the most important thing. Like the government reckoned at some point in time this whole fiasco would just go away. It would get diluted and just disappear. It hasn't. In fact, it's gaining momentum every day, every week. I mean, depending on which of the Facebook pages that you take a look at on a daily basis, it's definitely gaining momentum. More people are getting angry. It's like the Incredible Hulk. They're just getting angry, you know.
Exactly.
And they're turning green.
And it is getting momentum, so that's really good. But before we get into bring our guests on tonight, we do have David. We're planning to get Irene on. I think Irene's just a bit waylaid for a few minutes, so hopefully we'll get Irene in. But David is online in the green room at the moment waiting to come in. And we're going to be talking about sovereignty. But before we do that, let's find out what the communication channels are.
The green room. We've got a green room.
We've got a green room.
Okay, well, Mary's also in the green room. Mary, communication channels, please.
The communication channels are email info@oymireland.com, by phone 046 927 1212, and you can also contact us direct through the OYM chat room.
Thank you, Mary. You can go back into the green room and join David for a beer or a glass of champagne. I think we've got champagne in the green room. Anyway, 046 927 1212 is the magic number for the studio this evening and every evening. We've also got 3 streams for your listening pleasure, all on the website there. We are oymradio.com. You can just log in there. You can see the OYM radio player. You can see the UWS player. You can also see the People's Internet Radio player. If you have any problems, you can also log on to TuneIn Radio. We're on there as well for your listening pleasure. On iPhone and Android devices, you can just go on there, use the search facility and tap in Open Your Mind and make us one of your favourites. And happy days. We've also got the pop-out player on the website as well, so you can listen to us while doing other things. If you don't want to be involved in the chat room, we do monitor both chat rooms on People's Internet Radio and Open Your Mind Radio for your questions for our guests this evening. What else have we got? We've got Facebook, anti-social media. You can check us out there as well. There is a link on the website on the left-hand side, so you can log in there, see what we're up to, what information is floating around. And I think there's a few pictures of Alan out there at the this beer fest that his neighbours had. I'm not sure. I think he's wearing a bathing suit of some description.
Bikini.
The bikini.
Bikini. It seems to be a little bit of problem on our end anyway with the openyourmindradio.com website. We're having a little bit of trouble getting into it. I hope you're not. I hope you can get it your end. It could be just the internet. There was a few problems earlier on today regarding the internet. So hopefully you can hear us and hopefully you're picking it up on your end. But we'll crack on anyway. I think we're going out anyway and we're streaming and broadcasting, Steve, are we?
Well, if no one else will listen to us, I can hear you.
Okay, well that's good. Okay, well we have the podcast later anyway. Right, okay, so so as I said, a big thank you to the people on the march there yesterday. Steve's going to tell us about the what happened down in Swords.
Yes. Absolutely nothing. Nothing to see here, folks. Nothing to see, according to the Gardaí anyway. But seemingly there's dramatic footage has emerged on the internet of a water charges protester bleeding from a head injury after an altercation with Gardaí at a water charge protest at the offices of Fingal County Council. It is understood that the woman was one of 4 people 3 women and a man, who sat between the panes of a revolving door at the council offices yesterday. Gardaí were in attendance at the demonstration and attempted to remove the 4 protesters from the building when a pane of glass was smashed and a woman suffered cuts to her face. Anyone who you've probably seen it on Facebook or the internet. Anyway, this woman with blood streaming down her face. Seemingly she was there. She was part of a peaceful protest. The pane of glass was smashed. It's alleged at this time that it was An Garda Síochána who smashed the glass inward on top of the protesters, and as we said, this lady got injured. I think I seen some information then later on Facebook from some politician. You know, the politicians don't miss an opportunity, and he was kind of intimating that it was the protesters who smashed the glass, and he was irate, and who was going to pay for this glass to be replaced. But then somebody, I think, posted up on his Twitter feed that in fact it wasn't the protesters who broke the glass, that it was actually members of An Garda Síochána. So again, the guards they're just getting heavy-handed. Unfortunately, I think it's starting to turn into what we're seeing across the other side of the pond, where they're going to be going around in military gear. I'll be waiting to see tanks rolling out in the main streets here in Ireland, in the city centre. But look, all we can do is keep it peaceful, because they're waiting. They are absolutely waiting. They're trying to provoke us. They're waiting for us to get violent so they can react. They already have their problem reaction solution. Unfortunately, we're not going. We know the game and we're not playing. We know the rules, and we know if we keep it peaceful, well then there's bugger all they can do about it. Well,
they want martial law. If you look what's going on in the States with the Jade Helm 15, it's supposed to be an exercise, but we know they want martial law to bring in curfews. That's the plan of attack. You know, they'll say, well, there's nothing we can do. You got very violent, so we had to bring in a curfew, bring in martial law. That's what they want. So we have to be very careful of that. Now, just an update on the smog detectors. You know, we have been trying to chase this company who manufactured the smog detectors that Walter Graham had, and loads of people asking over and over again, what's the story, when are they going to be for sale, etc., etc. Well, I rang the company during the week again. I've been ringing them on a regular basis over the last couple of years, and basically what they're doing is crowdfunding. Because they don't want to do it in bits and pieces. They actually just want to get a big lump sum of money, do a global manufacture process of the smog detectors, and, you know, make a killing, basically, I suppose, on the product. So they have up to about around 850,000 sterling, and they're looking to raise about $1 million. And so you won't be doing anything until they get the crowdfunding. Now, I did say to them, well, you know, at the end of the day, people won't have the loyalty to the company. They'll have the loyalty to the product. And there is a Japanese or a Chinese company that has something similar. It's not really as good as theirs, I have to admit, but they're getting pretty close to it. And I did say to them, look, if somebody brings out a product that matches your product, does the same, if not better, you're gonna miss the boat, basically. You know, you're gonna miss the boat. They know that, and they know that there's loads of people looking to buy the product. So I've kind of pushed again to try and sort something out, but I am looking for an alternative as well, just to see if there's one out there, but nothing around like that at the moment. Nothing around for the value as well. You can get them, but 200 or 300, 400 quid, it's just too much money. You have to, you know, we are, you know, in the middle of an austerity over here in Ireland and globally, so people wouldn't have that kind of money. So we'll keep you posted on that anyway. Steve?
Yes, I think from what we can see here, they need about £150,000 sterling to get the ball rolling. So if 150,000 people donated £1 each, that will get the ball rolling. Or if one person donated £150,000, that would also get the ball rolling. Anyway, speaking of detectors, we seen some information during the week as well in relation to not Geiger counters, but radiation meters. We were just kind of we kind of touched on the subject about that as well, because well, actually, do you know what? We leave that for the moment, because more about that in a minute. I'm just going to that's something I want to talk about, so I'll leave that. Okay. I'll just continue on. I'll say there was a prime time show that was on RTE. That's the Rothschilds Trivial Entertainment, or RTE, over here in Ireland. Excuse me. And they done an expose, if you like, on the dangers, the absolute dangers of MMS, because obviously MMS, depending on who you talk to, it's gaining in popularity. There's some aspects of MMS that, you know, when it's kind of given the wrong way and it's causing pain to individuals, i.e. children, well, we're not for that. We're for the beneficial aspects of MMS. And
I think MMS should be 18 plus.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I totally agree. Yeah. I think, for anyone who's going to use it, well, I think, it should be over 18, we'll say. There should be something like that. But both Alan and I have used it for different purposes, sore throats, toothaches and stuff like that, and we have kind of found it beneficial. So therefore, it does something. But RTE done this expose on the MMS, and it was very, 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 very biased against MMS. But of course, what do we expect? Alan watched the whole documentary. I seen some of it, but I kind of skipped through it because I knew exactly where it was going. And even at the end, when they had a lady on, whose name escapes me at the moment, but they had a lady on via Skype, she was promoting MMS, and you could even tell by the interviewer on RTE, the whole tone of his voice, his demeanour. He wasn't going to believe her, he wasn't going to give her an inch, and he didn't. But she put her cards on the table, and she basically said, I'm just giving you the information. I've used it. A lot of people that we know have used it. We've done some research on it, and we know it works. The RTE guy then kind of says, well, where's your peer review? And she goes, we haven't got that kind of money to actually get a peer review study done. And she told him how much that would cost. And she says, but look, if somebody wants to give us the money, we'll absolutely no problem get a peer review done. Because the RTE guy then he tried to attack Jim Humble and say he was this, that, and the other, and he was a shaman and a sham. And this lady, she said, well, he what Jim has said actually works. And when he says people were cured from malaria and etc., 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 she said it's all true because she has seen it. She hasn't just heard about it; she's actually seen it for herself. But what else we got? Yeah, they also mentioned on the program that the World Health Organization, as if they are squeaky clean. Remember the sacking of Dr. Michael Rapaccioli regarding double jobbing for his communications industry? What about the neurotoxin in our water called fluoride? And so on, aspartame, there's lots of other things that have come out in the past that the World Health Organization have said is safe, and, our own kind of research has shown us otherwise.
That was Kerry Rivera.
Kerry Rivera, that's exactly who it was, yeah.
Yeah, and it's class how they talk about MMS, but they don't talk about the aspartame in the drinks, they don't talk about the neurotoxins in the water, fluoride, they don't talk about the MSG, all these things they don't talk about, and they talk about, the great work that the World Health Organization are doing, the one that obviously doesn't tell us that wireless technology is dangerous, and what happened to Michael Rapaccioli, Dr. Michael Rapaccioli being sacked. So yes, exactly. So I wouldn't be too convinced on listening to the World Health Organization based on history and what we found out about them. Anyway, another something that's come up here that we said we'd give it a mention. Dermot Murphy from the National Citizens Movement. We had Dermot on the show there a few weeks ago, and he's taken Irish Water to court in the High Court, and basically he's attacking them on two sides. One is the quality of the actual water meter itself. It's a class C box, and it should be a class B, I believe. And also the dangers of the fact that anybody could actually take out the meter and put down poison, and then you could actually poison a household. I believe there are two things that Dermot's taken the Irish Water to court for. Basically, Irish Water have produced an engineer's report regarding the actual meters, the actual casing, the casing that the meters go in. And basically, Dermot needs to raise €400 to do his report. Now, he has a chap down in Cork ready to do the report. We just need to raise the funds. So we've said that we would give a shout out to Dermot about this, out to the listeners to maybe help Dermot if we can. And if you can donate anything to Dermot. If you want to donate through OYM, we'll more than happy just put a little message saying for Dermot, and we'll pass on the funding. Or if you go over to the Hub Ireland, and you can donate via the Hub Ireland as well, and just put a message on saying that it's for Dermot and it's for the engineer's report. It's very important, this, because if Dermot is successful in the court, then that's it. Irish water are finished. I mean, they're finished anyway, but this will put the last nail in the coffin. So if you can afford a few quid, it'd be much appreciated to get that report for Dermot, and that'll be a big helping hand.
I'm guessing, if he is successful and it is found that all these boundary boxes are found out to be substandard of a lower grade than what should be there, then I'm guessing all those boundary boxes that have already been installed around the country, they would all have to be removed. Would that be correct?
Well, yeah, basically, yeah.
That'll cost a few bob, wouldn't it?
It will, and obviously I hope that the taxpayer wouldn't be paid for that.
Yeah, I like to agree with you on there, but I'm pretty sure, as we've seen in the past, the taxpayer always foots the bill.
Okay,
always.
How's your week anyway? Have you had a busy week?
Yeah, I've done a bit of gardening. When I took advantage of the fine weather and got out and ran the lawnmower around, is what I like to say.
Okay.
However,
and that relates to the New World Order in what way?
Well, does everything have to relate to the New World Order? Well, some. I was actually saying to my father, sometimes I don't know about you. Well, I do know about you, and it's the truth's coming out tonight. Alan's not a gardener. He doesn't have any green fingers.
No, definitely.
Or thumbs. Doesn't green thumbs. Sorry.
Green fingers, brown fingers, any kind of fingers like that when it comes to gardening. Maybe when I hit 60 or 65. But
you'll
be
pottering then, will you?
I'll be
around the garden.
I don't mind gardening. I don't mind it.
You don't mind looking at other people doing it?
I don't mind, the whole kind of, growing plants and having to go with doing that, but actually physically just cutting the grass for the sake of cutting the grass, I don't get any thrill of that whatsoever.
Yeah. Well, I don't think anyone does, but sometimes it can be kind of a spiritual thing. Oh, it can. You're at one with nature. I mean, I tell you, the best way to cut
listen, I'm not biting.
The best way to cut your grass is in your bare feet.
Yeah, I'm not biting.
Because then you're grounding. You're getting the whole grounding thing going on as well.
Well, you have a point there, assuming that it's nice and warm and.
Yeah. Anyway, I was just saying to my father during the week that sometimes when you are actually out doing the bit of gardening, when it's a nice day and you see some real genuine clouds in the sky, it's nice. But then sometimes you're out doing the garden and you see the chemtrails going over, and it just it kind of it takes the shine off it. Anyway, what I want to talk about just real quickly is I've seen a video during the week. Alan sent me over a link to this. Actually, he sent me over 2 links. This one was Bobby Kennedy, son of Robert Kennedy. I think it's Robert Kennedy Jr. He was on a show being interviewed about vaccinations. And although he said he's pro vaccinations, he spoke about his own kids and himself. He says, like, in the day, you might have got a couple of vaccines, maybe 3, 4, whatever it was. But he said now, before children are a couple of months old, they've been prodded and injected with up to, I think he said 21, 22 different vaccinations, and he's against that. It was nice to see someone of his caliber just come out and say that. It was kind of interesting. But what really caught my attention this week, and it's really all I want to speak about very, very quickly, is crystals. This is another link Alan sent me over, because we were actually talking about radiation. And little grandmother of the website, littlegrandmother.net, Keisha Crowther, she spoke about crystals, and with all the radiation that's leaking from Fukushima, and as she said herself, and I think science has already been proving it, that it's not only in Fukushima, it's entered the sea, and it can be found in everywhere. I think she said it's South America. It's been found in the water there. She said 99% of all sardines will have high levels of radiation, and it's amazing what she said. The information is just mind blowing with the amount of radiation. And she said these whatever they're called, what's the radiation thing called? The big radiation things that are burrowing the way down to the centre of the earth.
Oh yeah.
Those things anyway.
Yeah, them.
I'm not sure exactly what they're called.
Flux capacitors.
The flux capacitors, them. But she said they're boring through everything. They cannot be stopped, which is kind of scary. I would have thought science would have come up with some magic didgeridoo or do that to actually stop this or contain it. But she said no, it's just going to keep going. But it's gone through an underground river, and that's how it's affecting. It's gone through the water. But crystals. She spoke about crystals as well. And hands up anyone who has a crystal, whether they use it for healing purposes or not. Hands up who has a crystal. I'm not seeing a lot of hands. Then again, I can't see anybody. But yeah, she spoke about crystal, and she wanted to know how many people actually had them. And I'm listening to her and I'm going, yeah, I have a crystal, and I'm pointing at it, and I pick it up then when she's talking about it, and I give it a little rub and a little polish. And then she says, well, if you have it lying around your house, it's useless really, unless it's a working crystal. She gave some guy science on crystals and what they're all about. And just basically said that they actually done some, in Fukushima, they done some work with crystals over there. What they actually did, they got a body of water that was tested. It was tested to be high in radiation. They had a crystal. Again, some people don't believe this, but she says it's true. I've no reason to dispute her, despite some people say she's a shill, and I don't know. But in her opinion, they got a crystal, they put the crystal into the water. The prayer that they prayed for within the crystal was to delete the radiation. They then put it in, tested the radiation a couple more times, the water a couple more times over a 2-minute period. And she said by the end of the 2-minute period, the radiation was no longer detectable in the water. So they actually had a big push for people to send crystals over to Fukushima. And what she's doing is she's going around the country and she's putting them in. She's praying with these crystals and she's putting them into the water. And it's all good information. Anyway, check her out. She's at littlegrandmother.net. She's got loads of audio clips and video stuff there. So definitely, it's worth a look. And if you do have a crystal, turn it into a working crystal and don't just leave it lying there as an ornament. Anyway, there we go. How was your week?
I'll talk about my week later. We'll get our guests on anyway because Irene's in a hurry to crack on. I think she's a busy woman. So let's bring in our guests, David and Irene. David and Irene, how are you doing?
Hello, Alan. How are you?
Not too bad at all. Are you in a hurry to run away, are you?
Unfortunately, yes. I guess with the time changes and here, so I've been kind of set my time aside this morning, but unfortunately now I'm in the middle of taking care of my mother who just got out of the hospital yesterday.
Okay, no problem at all. So how much time do we have with you?
I guess what I'll do my introduction and then just hand over the eagle feather to David and let him proceed with talking about the financial solutions that we want to provide.
Yeah, okay. You go ahead and do that, yeah.
Okay. First of all, Alan, thank you very much, and Haishka for having us on your show. We really appreciate the coverage, and we're very grateful to be in Ireland. I had an opportunity to visit Ireland in 2007, and I totally fell in love with your people and the country.
Excellent. Glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I was greeted at the airport, the Shannon Airport, by a uniformed man who smiled at me, and he said, "Welcome to Ireland, me love."
Very good, very good.
So my whole impression of your people and your country is really coming from the heart, and I'm very happy to be visiting you today.
Excellent. So tell us all about yourself.
Yeah, I'll tell you about who we are. My name is Irene Moss Gravenhorst Kiaplanuch. I am working with the Southern Squamish government, and as a member with the Southern Squamish government, our mandate is to effect change with the Southern knowing that human poverty is not acceptable and that Earth's environment is in a state of emergency that begs to be protected in order to save the future of our children. Southern Squamish government knows that national sovereignty is crucial to preserving a stable social economic independence for its traditional land claim. Our use of international financial transparency is consistent with respectful bilateral agreements and contracts that stipulate the importance and urgency to protect the future of Earth and mankind with peace. And I will let David definitely elaborate more on the financial platform that we want to offer to Earth and mankind through humanitarian projects and, of course, Earth projects. The Southern Squamish government members are not registered with the UN. or state Canada. Therefore, we are not a tax or usury fee corporation. As a sovereign government, we are not affiliated with the band councils who have been already seen to kidnap the children from the hereditary Squamish people and then put them into black limousines at 11 o'clock at night for $500 a pop for the children never to be seen again. And this is directed by a minister called Bernard Velcourt, who works with the Department of Indian Affairs, which is the sister of the Bureau of Indian Affairs. It's a copy of what they do in the United States with the original people. So, State Canada is insolvent. The BC Premier Christy Clark and Prime Minister Stephen Harper are lying to the international community about the ownership of lands, natural resources, as they own nothing. They don't own a tree that stands on these lands, not a speck of gold that is on this part of earth, not a fish that swims in these waters, and not the air that we breathe. But they like to pretend. They love to pretend. They love to pretend that they own everything through the monetary Bank of Canada fiat debt note currencies. The Sovereign Squamish government members do not have weapons. We have no army, and we have no security to defend peace. And what I want to elaborate on that part is that we were dealing with a hereditary from Papua New Guinea. And I said to the king, I said, King David, I said, we have to put together a peace treaty. And he said, now, Irene, why would we do that? We're not at war. And so I laughed and I realized that he was absolutely right. And that's one of the main reasons why we have a do no harm policy. The Sovereign Squamish government court advisors promote a no tolerance for racial discrimination. And our hereditary ways are simple. We do not seek for votes or political contributions, as the spirit of the land is governed by the bloodline of the heir apparent ancestral Siem Kiapalanuch. And there's only one where SSG members are not interested in religion or money by donations. The Sovereign Squamish government supports a mandate of govern and know thyself with common sense and reason peacefully. The majority of people are mature enough to know the difference between right and wrong. Therefore, 97% of the human race is in sync with Earth's peace. And so what we've done, Alan, is we have created a financial platform whereby we can extend credit to anyone on Earth. As a traditional bank, the Sovereign Squamish Bank on Kanata, which was recognized by the Department of Justice by Canada, what we did was we basically issued a contract to the Canadian government, Stephen Harper, and told him, you know, here are our statements and claims. These are the crimes that you have committed against the Squamish people. Now, you need to pay up. You need to pay for all of these particular crimes. And, by the way, we would not assume or presume that you're responsible for all this genocide and ethnic cleansing here on Kanata, but we need you to come forward to the table. So, in other words, we issued the debt, we secured it with a registered commercial lien, and because the time clause has expired, we are the named creditors to the contract who can share the wealth with the people. And so a lot of people go, well, we don't understand contract law. It's too much legalese. We don't. The simple thing is that we have the ability to lend out tax-free money, usury-free accounts, and we have an Apache Navajo banker, Phil, who is working with us, who's got 20 years of banking experience with the Bank of America. He's no longer with them. He left the Bank of America in 2002, but he is still our banker. And because he has that type of banking experience, he says it's actually quite simple. We provide the financial products for people, and we just remove the taxes and we remove the usury fees so that when people want to borrow some money, They can borrow the money, and all they do is pay back on the principal. Now, here's the nice part about it, is that we believe in barter. So a lot of people, especially farmers, they're going to say, well, I don't have, I wasn't able to sell all my carrots and my celery sticks. So, Irene, Cap, would you be willing to accept some form of payment in the way of food? And we would absolutely say emphatically yes. If there was somebody that was making, carpets and said, Cap, Irene, I don't have the money, the carpet sales were slow this year, would you accept some payment in the form of carpets? Yeah, absolutely. So this barter system that we have created through our financial system is in conjunction with the Hapu Maoris. The Hapu Maoris have established a barter bank, and the Hapu Maoris have agreed to work with the Southern Squamish government and the credit group platform in order to extend that as an additional product. And I think a lot of people are very much into getting out of the money system. Yeah, we need the money for the time being. But as we slowly step out of the money system, we would love to reintroduce the barter system as a form of payment.
Which is something that we talked about last week. We talked about time banking, which is something that's on the increase globally. And it's something that I'm trying to promote and educate people about over here in Ireland. How could we avail of the funding or the finance from yourselves?
Well, one of the things that we have, it's a financial instrument called an IBOE. It's a short form of calling International Bill of Exchange. Now, everybody says, oh, Irene, an International Bill of Exchange is a promissory note that you will pay back later. No. I want to make it very, very clear to your listeners that the International Bill of Exchange that the Southern Squamish government issues is cash upon deposit. And the reason why we use the IBOE as a reference point or a description of our actual notes is because it is tax-free and interest-free. We adopted a charter dated way back in 1882, and that particular charter was protected by law by the name of Lord Denning, a very, very powerful common law judge who just basically used case law to say, oh, the individual signed the document in good faith to present the payment. And then the lawyers of those times argued and said, well, there was no security. And the judge, Lord Denning, said, no. The security is in the good faith. It is presented as a form of cash to settle the account. And so we use that law on the back of our International Bill of Exchange to say that when you use your financial instrument, it should be rendered as a deposit, and it should be given to the beneficiary that is named on the International Bill of Exchange. Now, I will say to you this, Alan, is that about 2000 and way back 2009, 2010, we were working with a fellow by the name of Paul Brennan. Paul Brennan is a politician in Ireland, and he does not run for politics through taxpayers' money. He is funded privately to go in and try to deal with he was fighting the tax man. And okay. So he was in the system, but he was fighting the tax man. And we were working with him in our IBOE to try and get him funded with some of the free energy projects that he wanted to get off the ground with. So he took our IBOE to the National Bank of Ireland, and the banker there said, well, I don't understand. I don't know how to monetize it because I've never seen something like this because it's tax-free and interest-free. So we've already gone into your jurisdiction. We embrace Ireland because Ireland still has the capacity to act with common law jurisdiction, law, and that is what we adopt in the exchange of our financial instruments. So here's the deal. you guys need some money, we could present you with an IBOE that you could take as a named beneficiary. Say I give you an IBOE and you say, well, I need 500,000, Irene. Okay, fair enough. You need 500,000. Send you the IBOE. And I can send you the IBOE in a PDF form, because what they are doing here in Canada now is they're taking a snapshot of the check, and that check is automatically deposited in by a digitized format into the bank here in Canada.
How do we pay that back to you?
So this is where we get creative. You could say, well, what do you like about Ireland, Irene? And I say, oh, I just want to come back and visit you.
Right.
Right? I just want to come back and give you guys a big hug. And so what would that look like? Well, maybe we cut a deal with the airline and just basically say, well, we need to pay Irene back through this loan that we have, and she's willing to accept a bartered agreement. So we could be very creative on how you want to pay it back.
Okay, but how can we use that? Say, for example, we have a few projects over here, right, that we'd love to get up off the ground, which is benefiting people, like the National Land League, like the Hub, and a number of other projects out there, and they all need funding, and it's all got to do with helping each other. So say we turn around to you and say, we need 100,000 euros, because obviously that's what the system expects over here. That's what we're using. How does that give us an example how we could use your bank in getting what we want here, and how we can pay you back?
Okay. If you were to say, okay, I'm happy to join up with SSG or SSCG, and I want to open up an account with SSCG, and I want to get the funding through the account. The technical logistics, David will walk you through all of that. But our banker, Phil, would then need an introduction to the Irish banker that is open to receiving the funding. So I don't know if you have a banker in Ireland that's basically saying, okay, the tax system doesn't work, and I'm willing to monetize a new form of tax-free currency. Now, you could say euros, but I thought that the euro didn't have any more value. I thought that the Irish punt was still a powerful currency.
No, the punt is gone. We moved to the euro, I think, in 2000 and, was it? I wasn't over here. 2002 or 2003.
Yeah, about that, yeah.
And the punt is gone. Although we would love to bring the punt back into Ireland and get away from the euro.
Absolutely, I totally agree with you. So here we go. You go to a banker and you say, I want to bring back the Irish punt. I have a banker that is willing to issue the funding in the Irish punt. So would you be willing to accept the International Bill of Exchange that comes with full financial transparency through the Sovereign Squamish Credit Group? And if the banker says, wow, that would be great to reintroduce the Irish punt, and the Sovereign Squamish Credit Group is willing to issue you funding in that currency, absolutely. If he says without hesitation, yes, then now I pull in my banker, and he talks to your banker, and those two make an agreement that it gets monetized, that the IBOE for you gets monetized in an account in Ireland for you in that currency.
Okay, well, honesty and banker, they're two words that don't really go together over here in Ireland and probably globally. There is a quick question there in the chat, Steve. You want to ask? OB1 wants to ask.
Yeah, just a question. What is it? Is there interest or a stipend? No. Is there interest or a stipend to be paid on what your guest is proposing? No.
No, there's no interest. There's no usury on it.
Usury fees and taxes are against the Sovereign Squamish Government Constitution. We do not believe in usury fees because usury fees are defined as another form of tax.
Okay, that's fair enough. And is there even a small administration fee for your overheads?
Yes, there will be. When you become a Sovereign Squamish Credit Group member, there's a $300 a year service fee. And that is to manage your account, that is to manage your transfers, that is to manage your monthly account. You know, we will send you by mail, we will send you an account statement, and then you can see. So $300 a year would be our fee for the service. But other than that, that's it. No more other hidden costs.
Would it not be better to have an office set up over here and then run everything from an Irish branch? Would that not be a better idea?
Yes, it's an idea. It's definitely an idea, but right now, Cap and I don't, and David and our group, we don't have the resources, and I'm trying to manifest a spaceship because I don't like airplanes.
Right, okay.
And so, yeah, it's the logistics of us physically coming over to Ireland to buy the building and to set up our own Sovereign Squamish Credit Group in Ireland. We would love it because it's not just because we love the people and the land and the country, but we love the Irish punt. I've always loved the Irish punt.
Yeah,
I have always stayed away from that.
Yeah, we loved it too. Unfortunately, we had no choice in the matter. They decided to go into Europe, and there's a lot of people are saying the same thing, that we want to get the punt back in and get our own currency back and move away from the euro. Even if the euro was still there and people could choose to do with it or not, but basically we need to get out of Europe really and just set up trade accounts. I think setting up a local office would be fantastic, and I'm sure there's people that listening to the show would love the idea. It's just getting a bank over here to accept your system, because obviously if there's no usury, no tax, they're not going to make money and they're not going to be happy about that.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that we know how the bankers and the gangsters play the game with the usury and the tax system, but it's falling apart, Alan. It doesn't have a place in this world anymore. The taxes and the usury fees are an insult to human intelligence. Ultimately, planet Earth that we think that unfortunately I've run out of time. I have to run. So I'm wishing you guys a beautiful radio show and much love, and hope to talk with you again soon.
No problem, Irene. You take care of yourself. We'll switch over to David. We'll get David in. Take care.
Okay. Haishka.
And you too. David, good evening. How are you doing?
I'm good, Alan. Good. I'm just tuning in here, listening.
No problem. Can you take it up where Irene just left off there, and just basically trying to find a banker over here in Ireland who will actually do something like that is going to be very difficult. Steve?
Yeah, just a comment has come in already from Dermot on People's Internet Radio chat room, and this is one I think which is kind of it's going to be a tipping point really. He said the banks of Ireland are under the Freemason control of the central bank, and they won't do anything without instructions from the Freemason controlled central bank. So I mean, even if we were to set up something and we were talking about issuing the punt, that would be kind of a stumbling block really, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Well, that's where sovereignty comes into the picture to kind of checkmate them into a corner, because the first thing you have to do is you have to detach from their controls, right?
Yeah. Well, you have to make their system redundant.
Yeah, and the way to do that is to start with sovereignty, because if you don't get sovereign, you're still under their legal and lawful obligations of this or that. So if we were to bring, say, a Sovereign Squamish Credit Group bank over there, it's not going to be any use, because once a whole bunch of people start using it, not in sovereignty, all of a sudden the Freemason controls are going to say, oh, well, we just enacted this law and that law to counteract the Sovereign Squamish Credit Group in Ireland, right?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Well, this is it.
So the first thing you got to do, like once you become sovereign, all of a sudden everything changes. They no longer have control over you, so to speak, and you can walk over to the new Sovereign Squamish government credit group bank and take out a loan, do this, do that, without any interference from them.
Okay, so define what you mean by once you become sovereign for people who don't understand it.
Right. Sorry, jumping ahead. Basically, it's not. You see, there's a little bit of a mix-up with how to go about getting sovereign, because they work in the obfuscation and misunderstandings. That's kind of where they thrive. Like, the less we know, the more they can continue playing this game. Sovereignty is, to declare your sovereignty is basically to throw off all their chains, and their chains are their credit cards. They are the bank accounts. They are the social insurance numbers and the tax contracts that we've attached to ourselves over the years without knowing it, right?
Mm.
So as soon as you start learning about sovereignty and understanding sovereignty and actually researching, the really, really old sovereign canons of law, you start to realize that there's a whole world out there designed for us, in that we didn't even realize that these shackles were being put on us.
Oh yeah, well that's it. That's the way they do it, isn't it? It's all based in ignorance. The whole kind of the body corporate during registration. There's a lot of questions that we have with that, and it's something that a lot of people are beginning to wake up to and learning the system. And the people at the top. The one thing we're guaranteed in life is change is inevitable, and unfortunately, these people at the top, kicking and screaming, they don't want the system to change because the system works for them and they're making the money and everybody else is suffering and they have control. But, again, I've said this before on the show time and time again, that change is inevitable, and, people are beginning to wake up with it, and the system is beginning to crumble. Now, last week I was mentioning time banking, and I have probably a Skype interview, or not a Skype interview, but a Skype conversation with the chap who runs the time banking system over in the UK. Now, if you look at time banking, it's bartering, it's the same thing. But because no money is changing hands, basically, there's no tax to be made, and, there's no VAT or anything like that because no money's changing hands. So what we have to do, I think anyway, is to make the current system redundant. And if we make the current system redundant and people are, say, doing bartering between each other, then obviously, what can the government do? I mean, they can't. I know down the line one time, I think Vin from PIR found something saying that they're going to make bartering illegal. But how are you going to police that? You just can't.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where Irene's International Bill of Exchange comes into play. Two private parties exchanging between themselves. That's the essence of what we need to do, right?
Exactly, yeah, exactly. And one probably step at a time. I mean, the whole idea of bringing the punt back, we all like that. I mean, there's an awful lot of people that want to do that and bring it back. But we know that the bankers are not going to go for it. We know there is a system which Vin has talked about as well on PIR. We've had Mike Montagna on, which is the mathematically perfected economy. And basically, it's the current system without usury. And that would work. I've done calculations on spreadsheets based on that principle, and it works. It does work. And the money issued is money that's based on credit, not debt, which is what we have now at the moment. But we have to take it one step at a time, because as Irene said, setting up an office, they'll probably bring in laws to shut you down or do something like that. But Steve has a few questions for you there, I think. Steve.
Yeah, David, I've got a question. It was on the bio that Irene sent over to us, and I'm just looking at your website here at the moment. For anyone who wants to have a look, it's sovsquamishgov.org. I will pop that up in the chat room. And I noticed that on the bio and on the website there, a lot of the people's names are copyrighted and trademark. Is that an important step in the sovereign process? Because we have heard about this before. We've heard it from Kate of Gaia. About lose the name, win the game, and because what we believe over here is that once you were registered at birth, then basically the government technically own you. So is the copyright and trademark of the name, is that a way of is it a get out clause, or what does that? How does it work?
Yeah, absolutely. That's extremely important. That's kind of the core essence of where it all begins. Your copyrighted trademark name it's not the actual letters per se. It's your authentic, not signature, your, what's another word for signature?
Sign of nature?
Your sign of nature.
Yeah, basically your signature. When you put the copyright trademark in front of your signature, that's yours. It's unique. Nobody can trademark. And when you copyright trademark that, their first question should be, what's the value of that if I want to use it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And when you attach a value onto your signature, that's where you got them all of a sudden, because in order to communicate with you privately, they need permission for your name.
Yeah, but how successful has that been, David? I mean, over here, I know that a few people have probably gone down that road and done the copyright and said, oh, you're using my name, I'm going to charge you 2 million quid for communicating with me. And I've never, ever heard of that, somebody actually getting the money.
Well, of course, but the key thing is that you're taking control, and that's where the tables literally turn in your favor. Now, if you can put them into a position of, if they go ahead and use your name, all of a sudden you put them on the defensive that they've just used your name, your copyright trademark name.
Right, okay, but surely a judge will look at that if it did go to court and go, look, that's just ridiculous, we're not going to even go down that, and you won't even entertain it.
Yeah, that's their modus operandi, because that's how they work, and that's the beauty of the essence of the Sovereign Squamish Government Court, in that now we have a court and that we can start defending our members with their copyright trademark names and holding any parties that wrongdo against our members accountable. And let's start that conversation. Right.
Well, it sounds like it's power to the people, which is great to see. I know in the past we've had people on talking about a fee schedule for when the police or the Gardaí pull you up, and you say, well, if you're going to contract with me, subject matter jurisdiction, here's the fee schedule, and it's going to cost you £5,000 per minute, whatever, if you want to contract with me. Now, through the ignorance of the Gardaí who don't understand the law, I know a lot of them kind of go through 6 months in Templemore and think they're Judge Judy at the end of it. But a lot of them don't understand the law. They're just told what they're taught in the training, the 6 months of training. But I've never heard anybody actually going to court and winning a case based on the fact that they have a fee schedule. So is this kind of, I suppose I'm being a bit of a devil's advocate, but only because I've never heard of anybody winning a case with a fee schedule or a copyright signature.
Yeah. And this is where we are currently right now with a few of our members. We've initiated some high-level tests and some low-level tests of what we call over here are fraud closures, where the courts and the banks are hand in hand in literally stealing people's homes on Squamish lands, and we're doing some litmus testing there to enforce the copyright trademarking on a large scale, so that we get a lot of people on our side can empathize not only with us and our members and who we're defending, which creates the force to enforce the copyright trademark infringements.
Okay. Well, I'd love to see that in action. I mean, even if you don't get any funding or money for it, but even if you go to court and the judge says, okay, we know where this is going, or you put in an affidavit or to the court and they just throw it out because they don't even want to go down there, would be good enough to actually do it. You know, like to so again, it goes down to the jurisdiction. Before you even go anywhere, prove that you have jurisdiction over me because I am X, Y, and Z, and I've this, that, and the other. And they'll probably look at it and go, yeah, we're not going down that road. Let's just throw that out of court. If that works, then fine. Even if you get to that stage.
Well, that's exactly the reason that we had Joanne reach out to you, is because we need to start rounding up the troops, so to speak, to create that force of the court situation that we were involved in with one of our members, where that's exactly what they did. They completely bulldozed and ignored the jurisdiction of the sovereign Squamish government, like the actual land that their courthouse is sitting on. They completely ignored that, and which just ratchets up the situation altogether. And it was a real fatal mistake that they made to do that. So it's going to be really interesting here in the next few months to see where this goes, Alan.
Yeah, I think it'd be good to kind of keep tabs on that. We have the same over here. We have the courts that bounce from common law into legalese and back again, trying to avoid certain questions or certain scenarios. And as one of our guests came on, who's been in and out of court all the time, he said the only way that you can do it, it's like a chess game. You have to get them in the corner, so the only thing they can do is to do the right thing.
Exactly, and that's what we're actually seeing. What we're seeing, if I can speak kind of candidly here, what we're seeing on the inside here is that, not all the pistons are firing in their bulldozer anymore. Their bulldozers are starting to show cracks and they're starting to fall apart. In that, the front of the plow is still there, but in the back end, the people that are operating the bulldozers are starting to say, what the hell are we doing? Holy crap, this isn't right.
Yeah. No, we can see that over here. We have, I think on the cards this year, probably about 100,000 repossessions or foreclosures on the houses. Now,
that is so...
well, it's madness, because we have a population of something like 4.4 million, so 100,000 in a population of 4 million is just ridiculous. But the great thing is that we have fantastic groups out there, like the National Land League, the Hub, and many others, who are telling people not to, because some people, yourself, when you're ignorant of the law, you think that the law is going to win all the time and you've no chance, so you don't turn up at court. And what we're trying to do is get people to turn up at court, to teach them how to represent themselves as a lay litigant, and to jam up the court so much that it'll probably take 2 or 3 years before they even get to court.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of, and in the meantime of that, what we can do is we can start looking at the, independent financial solutions like these barter banks, like IBOEs, like we don't have to just jam up the courts. We can get them busy looking at that. And in the meantime, while their guard is down, start doing these barter systems and get ourselves strong.
Exactly. Well, as I say, with the time banking system, yourself probably from being over in Canada that, and you've heard it in the States, that time banking is massive over there and it's big in the UK. Not so much over here in Ireland. It's something that I mentioned on the show a few years ago, and I was working with a lady who's a programmer to develop a time banking system, but unfortunately work called and she had to go away, and she's working as a contractor now, so that kind of stopped there. But I am in negotiation with a company in the UK who I'll be talking to regarding using their software, and maybe have an Irish portal version of the time banking system. The trouble is that there is some money involved, and when there's money involved and you're a voluntary organisation, money is scarce, and you can't do it. Now, they're not looking for loads of money, But I think they're looking for an average, it's 150, I think, per time bank, and there's no way that voluntary groups who don't have the money can do that. So, but I will talk to the chap and I'll explain it to him, and maybe we can come to some compromise. Barring that, I've said it before on the show, if we can get a programmer, or somebody who's a Joomla programmer, who can design a component for Joomla software, I'll be happy to sit down with him to explain to him how to develop it and what needs to be done and get involved with the design of it. So I can do, I can do part of it, but I'm not a programmer. And we've asked on the show before if there's any programmers out there who would be happy to dedicate some of their time to help us develop a time banking system for the Irish people so everybody could use it. It'd be fantastic. So that's the plan.
Yeah, and that's basically the same level that we're at right now. We're just finishing up a lot of banking solutions that we've been working on for just under 2 years. And the toughest thing was to find some skilled enough programmers that can do the key work that we needed done that we could trust.
Yes, exactly, and not put some Easter egg in there that you don't want.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. What else are you planning down the line? What else is planned for the Squirmish government? Is there any other plans? Are you planning to expand? Do people join it as a membership, or how does it all work?
Right. Yeah. Basically, you want to sign up as a member first, and when you become a member, you're kind of put in a pending position for 365 days, and during that time, you do the education process, because just becoming a member, it doesn't really do anything. You have to actually get educated and make a decision on what kind of sovereign member you're going to be. We do have the dual citizen status available, but it's different from country to country. And cutting up your birth certificate and cutting up your credit cards and cutting up all the chains and becoming absolute sovereign is obviously the best scenario for anybody in any country, depending on the timing of it. Because doing that and leaving yourself, defenseless and poor doesn't help anybody either. So it is a process, and we have instruments in place that you can protect your assets while you become a sovereign member of Squamish.
Right, okay. And is there a membership fee, or is it free to join?
There's no actual membership fee, but what you do want to get is you want to get the $40 ID card, so that when the time is right for you, you can pull that out when you get stopped in traffic, or you want to have you want to get the $40 banking card, so you can go up to any of the participating stores and use our card in the stores over there that we may have over there. I don't know what kind of stores you have over there. Like, say, Walmart, for example. If we got Walmart on board with our system, then, you could use our bank card in Walmart over there.
Having Walmart shut down 500 or 600 stores for the Jade Helm 15 exercise.
Yeah.
just as you say, Walmart. I know it's a very popular store over there. We don't have it over here, but we heard that went down. And what happens if they take out the ID and are stopped by the local police enforcement?
I don't know I'm not an expert in law, and I'm not an expert in Ireland law, so I'm just going to reference what I know for sure here locally.
Your local police, not the Irish police, but your local police.
Yeah, so here I know for sure that we have what's called the British Columbia Motor Vehicle Act, and the British Columbia Motor Vehicle Act says that if you have a registered vehicle in British Columbia with ICBC here, the big government insurance company, that vehicle belongs to them. So that dictates anyone driving this vehicle must have a BC driver's license. Okay. So if I was to take, if I was sovereign and I took my membership ID and jumped in someone's British Columbia ICBC insured car and drove it down the street, and I got pulled over, and the cop would say, papers please, and I would hand my Squamish ID over, and he would say, well, okay, this car is registered with ICBC, you need a BC driver's license, so therefore I'm going to tow the car, blah, blah, blah. So if I want to go ahead and travel down the road here unmolested by any of the police, then I'm going to have to unregister and recuse registration of my vehicle first. Then it becomes an automobile. Then it becomes private property. And that's the key, is privacy. So in my private property, in my sovereignty, in my private property, there's no chains. There's no encumbrance.
Okay, and so if the police officer pulls you over and it's not registered and you show them the pass, will he say, sorry, but if you don't have the proper license or details, we're going to tow you anyway?
Oh, right. One thing I forgot to mention there was with the sovereign Squamish government, we also have assurance, not insurance, but assurance that comes automatically with your government membership once you're fully sovereign with us. So if you have assurance and you're sovereign, and in your private property, they have absolutely no legal or lawful encumbrances or chains on you, and at that point, if they proceed further to trespass and assault you, that's when the assurance kicks in, and we have a $999 trillion assurance for all that covers all of our members. So if anything happens to them, and they've been put on notice of this too, that they've been put on notice that if they assault or trespass against any of our government members, we're going to take it very seriously. And so far, this is uncontested. Like, they haven't said peep about any of this.
Right, okay. Well, that's interesting. Steve?
Yeah, just a comment came up on the chat room there from Free Willy. And he just said that he saw a guy stopped in Nevada by a cop, and his car wasn't registered, had no plates, etc. The guy, he said a lot of freeman stuff, and I'm not going to say all freeman stuff is the same, but he obviously said about the unregistration or whatever it was, but the freeman road. But the cops let him go. So Willie says travelling can work, unregistered vehicle travelling can work in the US. So I mean, if it's working in the US and it's working in British Columbia, then I mean, chances are it could probably work here as well.
Well, I've always thought of that. If you went up the north, say, and you bought a car up there, right, and you brought it over the border, and you didn't do your VRT, you didn't do your registration, you just put your own personal plates on it and start driving around, and then the cops pulled you in, and you said, well, I'm not the registered keeper because this is not registered, so this is my vehicle. It's not, well, actually you can't say vehicle, it's my automobile.
It's your property.
It's my private property, it's my automobile, it doesn't belong to your system, and if you take this car off me, I'm going to sue your arse, basically.
Yeah, and what we found in the process of developing our systems, what we found was that the key word is to recuse ownership, recuse their registration, and you have a right to recuse your property from any registration systems under Sovereign Canon Law 5565 and 5564.
Well, my understanding is that if they don't rebut what you say to them, if you send in a letter or send in information and it's signed by a notary, and it's saying that I am now going to drive my car and it's not registered, and you send that in and that's not rebutted, then that now becomes the law. That's my understanding. And then if they pull you over and they say, well, we're going to take your car, and you say, well, I'm sorry, here's the paperwork, and this is the law, and if you actually take my car off me, you're actually going to be at fault, and I'm going to bring you to court. And that all sounds brilliant, and that all, apparently, if that's right, is the law. But yeah, if that goes to court, chances are the judge is going to say, yeah, we can't have this happening, because if we do that, everybody will want to do it, and we won't make any money on the cars. So we can't have this guy winning the case.
Yeah, so what we're seeing again is it's all kind of a case-by-case scenario, and there is patterns. There is patterns to these case-by-case scenarios, and I'm just going to speak from what I'm seeing. What I'm seeing is that the successful scenarios are when the paperwork's done right, the notifications are done, and there's, all the T's are crossed and all the I's are dotted, that those are the people that are having success. And when we all follow the same template, there's going to be precedence after precedence after precedence that's going to build momentum, and that momentum is all of our force.
Yeah. I mean, I do like the idea of the whole squirmish government and the backing behind it and everything, because that adds a little bit of weight and a little bit of authority to it, rather than just a group of people fighting the system. Now, how that would work, how that would, I mean, could we possibly over here in Ireland have a sovereign government, and we set up our own government away from the current system, and then people join that sovereign government, so you deregister yourself? Because here's my argument, David, and I'm still waiting to get an answer on this, and it goes back to the whole we are a representative democracy and we are governed by consent. Well, if we're governed by consent, then that means we should be able to consent to what we want to, because no means no in the eyes of the law. So if we say, oh, we don't consent, and you get stopped and they, pull you over for not wearing your seatbelt, and you go, I am sorry, guard, but I'm not contracting, I don't consent, then that should be the end of it. Now, in a system that's representative democracy, that means that we are governed by consent. So if we decide that we don't like the laws that this government is putting out, we should be able to go to a building and say, I don't like the laws that you're bringing in, so I want to deregister, I want to get away from your system. Where do I sign on the dotted line? Now, we have no office over here that I'm aware of in Ireland to do that. So that must mean that if we can't do that, we must be slaves. But the European Human Rights, Article 4, says that servitude and slavery is a violation. Right? So this is, and nobody seems to answer it. Now, Dominic Hannigan, who's a TD, a Labour TD, not a nice Labour TD, by the way, says that as a citizen, we have agreed to abide by the laws and the rules of the country. And my argument is, well, when did I do that? When did I agree to do that? I don't remember turning around and agreeing to it. Maybe when I was born and my parents registered me and I became a body corporate and they put them two bits together. Because I was young, their authorization of agreeing that contract. But surely when I get to 18 and became an adult, that contract should have been null and void, and I should have had the choice to agree to another one or not, as the case may be. Mm-hmm. So I'm still trying to find the office in the city where I can sign out and stop being from a sovereign, because I must be a slave. Because if I can't, if I have to, if it's a unilateral contract where I cannot turn around and say I don't consent, then it must be slavery. And
well, that's like a parent setting up an office for their kids to opt out of being their parents' kids.
well, you could always run away, I suppose.
Exactly.
Maybe that's the solution. That you can opt out. You just leave the country, but that's not really a solution. So
yeah,
now I'd love to speak to somebody like maybe the Master of the High Court or somebody at that level, and get a good argument as to whether we must be in a dictatorship. Obviously we are, because we can't choose to not consent or not. It just seems to be ignored. If we say we don't consent, they just kind of ignore it.
Yeah, and that alludes to the bigger problem, the bigger matrix going on planet Earth, is that there's, and I don't want to get into a big discussion about, who or what exactly is at the top of the pyramid, but if you keep on going up the beanstalk to the top of the pyramid, things start getting really ugly. And that's where me personally, I kind of shrug my shoulders and say, well, there's these masters are in no way whatsoever even entertaining the idea of allowing the kids to play on their own, so to speak, right? So again and again and again, I keep seeing these patterns of the only thing that really works is when we grab the bull by the horns and we claim our sovereignty and we become something that they're going to respect. And they're only going to respect true leaders and a true body coming together to claim themselves.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I do agree that we do have a nanny state, and there are people in this world who will always rely on the nanny state, that cannot think for themselves, will not be responsible for themselves, and will want to rely on the nanny state, and that's fine. That's great for them. But for the people who realise that actually we're sovereign and I'm an adult and I've grown up and I agree that, I'm going to be responsible for my actions and what I do. So it's time for me to sign off this nanny state system and I'll kind of do my own thing. And I'll be responsible for my own actions. Thanks very much. That's where we need to go have that office to sign off. Yes. So because I do accept, I mean, I've seen these people and I've met these people, they will never move away from the nanny state. They want to be, and that's fine, and that I'm totally happy with that. That's fine. They can stay there. But for the people who actually know about sovereignty and actually have grown up and have become an adult and will accept the responsibility, there should be a get out clause, because it looks like that, it's judged on the weakest link in the chain with the nanny state, and we are being judged as sovereign people who accept our responsibility. We are being judged by the weakest link, which is completely unfair.
Yeah, and that's another whole argument and ball wax and situation that I've just recently come into understanding is that one of the fears of people at the top levels are worried about is that, if we let the kids, have their own gang, they're going to come and persecute us and come and chase us down in the streets and get us, But the thing is that with aware sovereign leaders and aware sovereign people, that's not what it's about. It's about governing yourself in accordance with natural law, and natural human law is not about chasing people down in the streets. It's about forgiving, taking responsibility, et cetera, right?
Exactly, but unfortunately you're dealing with psychopaths who've no empathy. That's the problem. And they want to have the control because it's an aphrodisiac, and they want to control and manage the system and have the power. Steve, you have a couple of questions for David.
Yeah, something come in on the chat room there, and it says, does David have any comments to make on Schaefer Cox? I think it's Francis Schaefer Cox, who was in prison for 25 years, I think, based in Alaska. He was a free man accused of forming a militia. I've never heard of this chap, but I just done a very, very quick search, and it seems that he may have been kind of a free man on the land, but they're saying here he was arrested for a concealed weapon or something displayed, or I don't know. Have you heard of him, David? No.
No, I haven't heard of him, but we have a guy here in Canada named Dean Clifford, who's also an extremely prominent free man on the land advocate and leader, I guess you could say, in the whole movement. One of the things about the whole free man on the land thing is that if you can get all your paperwork in order, get it all pristine, and set yourself up in such a way that, you're independent, it's okay, but, don't come into the city and try and, make noise, or else you're on your own. Free men on the land are on their own. right? They're like with a government and a government member, you have a government behind it. You're a member of a larger group. You have a force, right?
Yeah.
Free men in the land, you have no force. So they're going to molest you and do whatever they want with you.
Yeah, and I think Dave, from what I can remember, Dean served like 18 months or something in prison, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, and is Dean more the Freeman side rather than, I mean, would he not join your government?
Yeah, you know what? I've been listening to Dean for quite a while, and I really, really appreciate his energy. Appreciate what he's doing. He has probably more balls than I do, and standing up to the powers that be and making a stand and doing what he's doing. We have actually talked about reaching out to Dean and basically saying, hey, look, we would love to have you in our government in a capacity that fits.
Yeah, I mean, basically, I think there would be a good mutual joining of teams and minds if he did that. I mean, you could both learn from each other. So I think it would be a good thing to do that. And I like the idea. I mean, I said to Steve before, this wasn't on air, but I was watching some program ages ago, a couple of years ago, and it was, I was watching this guy. This guy was on his deathbed, and he was asked, people asked him, what would you say to people? What would be the things that you'd say to people about life, and what would you do in life if you had it over again? And it was one of these, this guy was like a Noam Chomsky, very kind of intellectual, educated, well-travelled guy. And the one thing he said was, join a gang. Right? Join a gang. And what I mean is, I'm not talking about going out and join Hell's Angels. What I'm talking about is, join a group of people that you have the support from. Don't be on your own, because if the proverbial hits the fan in any way possible, whether it's a climactic change or weather patterns or whatever it is, you're going to work better as a group than as an individual. And you'll be able to protect you and your family as a group rather than an individual. So, and I think he's right. So I think people should start joining groups, whether it's local groups like the Hub or the National League or whatever the group is, and all support each other and help each other, because that's the only way. I mean, that's what community is all about, and that's how it kind of all started, with villages and the indigenous tribes working together to help each other. And that's and we need to go back to that. We need to go back to that community and start helping each other, because the government and the politicians are not going to do it. They're cleaning up the system. They're making money for themselves. They don't care about anybody. They just care about themselves. So the only way we're going to make a change globally is that if we all do it, we get up and we do it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a mathematical equation, really.
Yeah, I'm just trying to. The other thing that Irene was talking about there was the whole currency thing. I think that's going to be a difficult thing to do, and because you have the argument about legal tender, and in their system, if you have something that's not legal tender, then you'd probably be done for some kind of money laundering in some kind of form. The bartering is probably the best way to go, or maybe I believe in the prohibition in the 1920s, they used you couldn't have money, you couldn't win money in a slot machine. Because they weren't allowed. I was actually watching this morning. It was quite interesting. During Prohibition, you didn't have slot machines as such where you could put money in and win money. So what they did is, to get around it, is you bought tokens from the cashier, and then you went over to the machine and you used the tokens. And if you won tokens, you'd go back and cash them in for money. And apparently you could legally do that, but you couldn't put cash in the machine. And so there's always a way around the system. There's always a way around to do it. And, like if people start bartering, and say we start using monopoly money instead of, that's not legal tender. And as long as you and me agree that that has a value, then we're fine. Because that's what all money is. It's a promissory note. It doesn't even have value anyway, but only because we deem it for having a value, then that's why it's worth something.
Yeah, and on the same note, that I think it was the state of Louisiana they're starting to actually enforce no cash policies in the state of Louisiana against things like garage sales where people are doing the bartering. So they are kind of showing their cards and what they're thinking along the lines of going against bartering even.
Well, they can't make. I mean, how are they going to make bartering illegal? How can you prove that you did it? I mean, that's just ridiculous. That is really getting to the George Orwell.
Whole economy. Yeah, the whole economy comes to a screeching halt if you do that.
Yeah, well, if they're talking about a collapse around July, October, because we know the system is a massive Ponzi scheme and nobody's being put at the end of it, and because of that, it's just going to all collapse. And so whether it is in July or October, you have the likes of your Gerald Celentes and people like that saying about the up and coming collapse because they're in debt. If Greece decide to leave the euro, which chances are they might do, then that's going to start a ripple effect with Italy, with Spain, with Portugal, with Ireland maybe, and the whole system will just collapse.
Yeah. And you got to remember that, even if it does collapse or this happens or that happens, the bottom line at the end of the day, no matter what happens, is whether or not you have chains attached to you to them, right?
Yeah. I think, the more self-sufficient we are, the better it's going to be for us anyway.
Yeah, so even if even if this does happen, and you are self-sufficient, that's not good enough because you're still their slave at the end of the day, right? So, let's say they declare martial law, but you're okay, and they come bang on your door anyway. And, papers, please. Translation to that is, are you a slave or are you not a slave?
Right, okay. Well, again, they could say papers, please, and you say, well, I'm a sovereign, and they'll say, well, you can keep saying that while we put the handcuffs on you and take you away. I mean, regardless of your status, they could still override whatever you say, completely ignore it, which has happened over here, and they'll just take you away and arrest you anyway.
Right, and that's where you just made the comment of building up the community. So if you have a strong community where, you are talking to your local police enforcement, you are talking to your local judiciary people, system people, and take the temperature. Don't wait. Go and take the temperature and see what they're thinking. Let them know what you're thinking. Let them know, this. They don't have the time to do the research, and they don't have the inclination because it puts them out of a job. So go and take their temperature in advance. Yeah,
well, we've come across this as well. You're right there, because we have come across where cases have been stopped or thrown out of court because they didn't bother to actually do the research, or they made so many mistakes on the documentation that it was just farcical.
Yeah, and back in 2008, I had my very first experience of actually making an actual legal, lawful difference in my local community with the forced vaccinations. We did a protest in 2008, and we went and found a federal judge, and we said to him, hey, look, these vaccinations are nasty, and if your kids are forced to get vaccinated, what are you going to do? And the judge got back to us a few days later and said, what do you need me to do?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
well, okay, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead, Dave.
Oh, yeah, and what happened was that, I forget how many days later, but basically an announcement was made to all the local CDC to not go forward with the forced vaccinations, and everything kind of came to a screeching halt here in Vancouver, BC.
Yeah, well, I can see them kind of rolling that out. I'm going to pass you over to Steve. We have a few questions. And, UK Prepper was talking about, when I mentioned about gangs, the word Gary Glitter came up, and then the song started playing in my head. Don't do that, please. I don't go down that road. Do you want to be in my gang?
Yeah. I'm guessing, David, you're familiar with Gary Glitter over there.
Sorry, no, I'm not.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, he was a rock star, glam rock star from the 70s who had a lot of songs. One of them just happened to be "Do You Wanna Be in My Gang?" He subsequently turned out to be a paedophile and has been jailed several times for it. Anyway,
Anyway,
Okay.
that's going off track.
Yes, it is. Graham was wondering, can we ask David if he is familiar with Marcus Servant King? He goes on to say that he has cracked it, and I believe in this construct all our problems come from the fact that we own no property. We cannot own property under their system. Just wondering if that chap Marcus Servant King, would you be familiar?
I haven't heard of him, but the statement of we own nothing kind of it's a pattern, yeah.
Yeah, we come across that a lot, and like there are people. It's amazing when you have a conversation with someone who's not really open to some of this information that we would consider entry level information. I mean, there's a lot of times I would have conversations with people that I work with, and you'd say, "Oh, your car, you don't own your car, you don't own your house," and they look at you like you're some sort of a nut job. What do you mean I don't own it? I say, well, what's the first thing you do when you bought it? Well, you register it. So, I mean, by registering, you pretty much, in a roundabout sort of way, an underhanded sleight of hand sort of way, you're transferring ownership, which is why if you're stopped, and I tell them, and you don't have this or that or whatever, you don't have some tax disc displayed in the window, that they can confiscate your car. And
you got it.
A lot of people don't get it though, and you say, well, it's true with your house as well, your home, that you think you're gonna leave it to your children because you have to register the property as well. So it's amazing that what a lot of people don't know, and as I say, we consider this entry level information.
Yeah. Here in Squamish, that's kind of the whole reason that I personally have looked to the local original people here as a solution, because they are the true landowners. They are the alloidal custodians. And Vancouver and British Columbia, it's on unceded land, meaning that there is no treaty here, and it's been stated in publications here that this is true, and there's nothing that the Canadian government can do about it unless they create a treaty or unless they do other actions. And all the homes on Squamish lands, they are susceptible to being taken, I guess, by the local authentic people.
How many people are in the government? Many people have joined the Squamish government. Do you know?
Actual registrations that we have on file, we're not going to release that yet. There is going to be more of an official launch date for our government, but as you can imagine, there are some cards that we need to keep close to our chest in order to get to the place that we want to be. There's 7 million people here on our lands, and they're all, they're in a primary position to jump on board because they have mortgages here on the land. They have cars here on the land, and they are the first and primary to jump on board because they have the most to gain from, unregistering themselves.
Okay, and so if they have taken out a mortgage from one of the local banks and they decide, right, I'm going to join the Squamish government, how does that work with your payment system? Do you pay off I'm not too sure how that would work. If they want to say, right, I want to give this money back to the bank, I want to work with the Squamish government and deal with their financial system and not with this system the current system that I'm in. How does that work? Have you looked at that at all?
Yeah, we're currently dealing with some use case scenarios where here in as everybody knows worldwide, the banks and the courts are working hand in hand to give the banks homes, I guess, to put it a nice way. And we have what we call fraud closures. We have some here locally that we're working with in order to be the testing, in order to be the litmus test. So we know what we're up against. And these test fraud closures we're putting the properties back into loyal custodianship with the true hereditary bloodline people. And so far, we're getting the bulldoze approach from the courts because they're not recognizing the jurisdiction. They're not recognizing the hereditary literally standing right in front of them in court. So we're getting the bulldoze approach from them, and we're counterclaiming them, and we're taking legal action, and we're ratcheting it up a whole bunch of notches, and we'll see what happens. And for people, to answer your question, for people to actually go ahead and start the process in, like a liquid state, I guess you could say. Like, let's say you own your home outright, putting your home into a loyal jurisdiction here in Squamish is a fairly easy process. Now, there is going to come a point where we have to put the land title office on notice that this exists, this is real, this is happening, and start dealing with it.
Yeah, well, I have to. It's just amazing that you're over in Canada and there's a number of other countries in the common law system, and we're all going through the same system. We're all going through the same process where people are beginning to, they're being evicted from the homes. The banks are not recognising certain procedures and laws. They're just choosing to accept what they accept from the banks. I mean, the banks really are controlling everything. I mean, that's why we said we are in a fascist state, because the banks are controlling everything, and the judges over here in Ireland are political appointees anyway, and they're probably linked to the government party. So it really is massive, massive corruption on a phenomenal level, and I'm sure Canada's no different.
No, it's not. Here in BC, unfortunately, it pains me to say this, but unfortunately here in BC, that the courts and the banks are pretty bad. Probably the worst in Canada, according to a few people. I've never experienced it myself. I've never actually had a bank foreclose on me. I have been in the courts here when I was a kid, so I do know that they have a bad energy and they're not nice to be in.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, we're down. We have groups called the National Land League and the Hub, and the Land League came about in the early 1800s in Ireland when tenants were being evicted by the English landlords from their homes, and a chap called Michael Davitt set up the Land League to protect people from being evicted, the tenants from being evicted, and within 3 years he got what you wanted. And they didn't have social media and all the technology that we have today. Well, the National Land League has been set up again along with the Hub, and these groups of volunteers of people who have either been through the system or gone through the system or might be going through the system are all helping each other in the courts and becoming lay litigants basically, and standing up for themselves in the court and learning the legal system and learning the law. And what's happening over here, which is great to see, is that people are beginning to take an interest in the law and to understand the law and stand up for themselves. And of course the solicitors who play the game with the judge are pulling their hair out because, one, they're not making money because people won't hire them because they're going to represent themselves, and two, because the judge or the registrar, because the lay litigant doesn't know the game, the judge or registrar is afraid of what they might say in court. You know, because it is all a game. I mean, that's what it is. It's all a game. And I've been in court along with National Land League people and the Hub, and meeting people who are going up in front of the registrar and they think the house is going to be taken off them when there is court procedures, because they have to be seen to be being understanding. So the first court appearance is always adjourned, and there's probably 2 or 3 or 4 month wait until the next one, and then that's where we kind of speak to the couple and then say, right, you need to start putting the paperwork together, an affidavit and everything else for your next court appearance. So the whole plan behind it is that if we can get everybody, I mean, if you have about 80 or 90 cases gone in one day and only 5 people turn up, you know, it's just, you know, that's kind of very defeatist. But it's only based on ignorance, because people don't realise that they can fight and they can stay in their homes. And these groups have been doing fantastic work in helping the lay litigant and the people stay in their homes. Because we have, on average, I think the number was something like 2 suicides a day.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal. Yeah. That's like 2 jumbo jets crashing every year, give or take. And if that was happening, there would be an inquiry. There'd be what's going on. But because it's not seen, and the media, like probably over in Canada, is just controlled, and they won't tell you really what's going on.
Yeah, and that's where radio stations like Open Your Mind come into play in a big way.
Well, that's what we try and do. I take it you have your own radio stations over there, your internet-based radio stations who broadcast and get this information out also.
Yeah, I'm not. It's not an area of my expertise or strengths. I am kind of being forced into it a little bit here to come into understanding how the alternative media kind of works with each other.
Okay, because that might be something for you guys to set up as a Squamish government, to actually set up your own alternative radio and let people tune in and hear the truth and what's going on.
Yeah, one of the first things that we are looking to do is actually start a YouTube channel where we can, just to start the ball rolling and submit videos and, audio into our YouTube channel on a regular basis.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea. Brilliant idea. If you get it up and running, it'd be good to see. Do you have any questions for David, Steve?
There was a question that came in, but I'm really not too sure if it's relevant, but you know what, I'll throw it out anyway. But just based on all the information that you've been giving us, David, one of the listeners on People's Internet Radio, Sebastian is wondering, with the information that you're giving out and all that's good information, do you have your tax and insurance, etc., which obviously would tie you into their system?
Yeah, as per what Irene introduced at the beginning of the show, we're tax-free and usury-free. And that's really key because taxes are a form of slavery, right? And
correct.
If we charge taxes, we would actually be what we're actually fighting against. So taxes are against our Constitution. Taxes are not even. It's just part of the problem. We can't repeat the same problem over again.
But I'm guessing from where he's coming from when he says tax and insurance, I'm guessing he means like for motor vehicles, yeah. Okay.
I
don't know if you guys do you pay road tax? Like we have to pay road tax over here, and it's you get a disc and you stick it in the window, and it says you've paid your road tax. It's supposed to be for the maintenance and upkeep of roads.
Yeah, and that kind of bleeds into the whole entire resource-based economy conversation. Here, the de facto government here in British Columbia does have road taxes blended into the gasoline tax.
Yeah, we've heard that. Yeah.
Yeah,
there's no way around that. I mean, you go in to pay at the pump, you just pay, don't you? You can't say I'm not paying the tax.
Exactly, and that's where, the alternative energies are going to play a big part in kind of making the corporate global beast submit.
Well, the Rockefellers have kind of moved away from, they sold all the shares in the oil side of things, so I think they're accepting defeat there, maybe, and getting into something else. But David, we've reached that time in the evening, so a big thank you for coming on the show, yourself and Irene, and it's a pity Irene couldn't stay on. I'm sure it would have been interesting, but we'll have to do a schedule where we'll get Irene on for the whole show as well with yourself. But before, I'm going to pass you over to Steve, and Steve will get all your details off you there, so a big thank you for coming on, Steve.
Yeah, David, it's been great information. It's been a pleasure. Unfortunately, as Alan says, unfortunately, Irene couldn't hang around as well. But you've done great Trojan work anyway. So I think if you do get set up with a podcast or YouTube or even an internet-based station, I think you'll do just fine. Anyway, you seem to be a natural. But yeah, we have your information.
I'll tell you what, guys.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. Contact me again to bring me on again in about a month's time, and in a month's time I'll have some real solid solutions for people.
Okay, I think we might be able to arrange a date for that. Yeah, that shouldn't be a problem.
It's just we're right on the cusp. We're right on the razor's edge of putting them into action. And in a month, we'll be able to have 100% confidence to say that here is what anybody in the world can do right now.
Excellent. We look forward to that. David, we have the information here, the contact information. sovsquamishgov.org is the website. Is there any other means where people can find out more information about the movement, the group?
Research sovereignty, research true liberty, because sovereignty and liberty go hand in hand and run very parallel, and that's what we're all about. We're not about telling you what to do.
Okay, like you're probably like us and a lot of other people. You're just providing information.
That's it.
Yeah,
and that's it.
Yeah. So and once you get through it all, you'll start to see a pattern of why the birth certificate is the epicenter core of their control.
Yeah, no, totally agree, and that's the one thing we have to get rid of. All right, David, listen, thanks a lot for coming on. Just stay with us there for a minute, and we'll go off to a musical break, and we'll be back after this.
This is Open Your Mind Radio on OYMradio.com, UnitedWeStrike.com, and PeoplesInternetRadio.com.
And we're back to Monkeys, I'm a Believer. Great information there from David from the Squamish Sov government. As we just spoke to him during the break there, and he did say that he will definitely try and get a world premiere exclusive for us within a month's time. So that should be good news. Anyway, we never got to hear you about Alan's Week.
Yeah, being busy. Well, this is not an Alan's Week, but we did hear during the week about the farm down in Kildare, I believe it was, where there was 50 mercenaries, Global Risk Solutions, were down there, and there was a bit of an argy-bargy, and a few people got hurt. But I think overall the people, the sovereign people, won. But these, I mean, why were 50 mercenaries in bushes from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. and the Gardaí were looking on when this was taking place? That's very strange. Very strange. We are getting to the stage where martial law looks, not too far away if we keep letting them do what they do. Okay. Just a couple of things for during the week. I was down in the National Land League office in Kells with Fiona and John, helping out as much as I could, and so that's going well. We're beginning to get people in the door, which is great, and sorting out information there. The other thing was I was also went to the National Land League meeting on the Wednesday night, and which again was great information. Sharing the information, swapping ideas, passing it around the place. It was very, 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 very good. Now, on Friday also, there was a call out from National Land League members to attend a meeting in Trim. Now, I think everybody was under the impression that this was a meeting where 3 TDs were getting together and they were setting up a version of the Land League, or the National Land League, something like a Land League. So, a whole group of us went down there from the National Land League, and it didn't actually turn out to be that at all. It turned out to be a local chap who wanted to do something and set up a defence team or similar to the Land League, because he was going through troubles with the bank, and there was 3 councillors down there, one from Sinn Féin, one from Fianna Fáil, and one from Fine Gael. And there was a couple of heated moments, all right, when people were having a go at the councillors, and it was quite interesting. But the majority of the audience was made up of the National Land League, which is brilliant. If we weren't there, then there probably would have been 2 people there. So it goes to show you, that when the call goes out and people can make it, they'll go down, and we'll support and find out what goes on. But it was just interesting. I'm just looking here. Yeah, there's another couple of cases there. I've 2 other cases. One case, I really hate to hear this. When somebody is suffering from cancer and the banks are trying to take the property off them, and that's something I'll probably be talking to the person about during the week. It's bad enough they're going through the cancer, but the banks are going ahead and just trying to take the property off them it's just way beyond way below the belt, really is way below the belt. But look, we'll see what we can do anyway, and we'll soldier on. So that's basically what's been happening during the week, just kind of keeping busy. And of course, Ireland, again, is in the media and a bit of a laughing stock of the world as well. And I don't know whether you heard about this, Steve, but apparently the Irish Water sent out a bill to a dead person.
I heard about that, yeah.
Right? Now, people are saying, well, how did they know he was dead? Well, they were very polite and put R.I.P. on the envelope.
You're taking the P.
Oh, I'm telling you,
they put his name on the bill and sent out to his name, R.I.P.
Yeah. I mean,
is that a joke?
Talk about, I hope it is, but I did see a photo of an envelope with the name and R.I.P. at the end of it.
Oh, Jesus. That's a whole new level. Seriously.
Talk about laughing stock. I mean, what are they going to do? Are they going to get in satanic worshippers to chase him chase him down and say, listen, just because you're dead doesn't mean you shouldn't be, you're going to get away with paying water. Yeah, you still have to pay water.
They'll be exhuming that body, so.
Exactly. And the other thing is that I come across was an interview with Dr. Paul Craig Roberts on kingsworldnews.com about most of the European countries selling out their own people for money and cushy jobs in Europe. That sounds very familiar. Do we know any of the politicians that have gone to Europe for jobs recently? We do know a few that have been on the list. And yes, so if you want to go over to kingsworldnews.com and look up an article called Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, he talks about how these parasites are selling their people up the stream just to get cushy jobs in Europe. And I mean, we have to change the system. It's just infested. Really is infested. And the only way we're going to do it is people power. It's the only way. It's the only way we can do it is people power. And keep doing what we're doing. Join the groups, help each other, barter, do as much as we can. And because they are running scared. I do believe they are running scared, especially with the protest that was in Dublin yesterday. I mean, it hasn't died down. They've seen the crowds. Now, the politicians as well, obviously concerned about with the election coming up. They disappeared for 4.5 years. And then all of a sudden there they are. They're out, sending their leaflets out. What can I do for you? Where was that 4 years ago when they got into power? What can I do for you? Why are they doing it now when the election's just around the corner? So,
yeah, that's right. So we got one of those in the house from the chap that we mentioned several weeks ago here on OYM Radio. That was Ray Butler, with the kind of a little bit of an altercation outside his home where he allegedly ran over one of the protesters and she sustained injuries. But he then sent some kind of little information leaflets around the houses in the area and even out as far as us here in the sticks. Ray Butler, lovely picture of him, and on the back he wants your name, your address, your telephone number, your email address, and what can I do for you? I haven't filled it in yet because it's only a small amount of space on this little flyer, so I want to use it productively, I suppose, is for want of a better word. There's so much I want to say to Ray, so much I want to say, but so little space, and I don't want to be rude, but I want to get the message and how I feel across to him.
Well, we know about the little kind of issue that Ray had. As apparently and allegedly knocking down a voter or an electorate. And basically the next day, Ray was on the old radio station. We talked about this and he was giving his the sub story. And I spoke to the lady who was involved in that. And I asked her would she like to come on and give her side of the story. Now obviously for legal reasons there's certain things she won't be able to say. So I left her with her and I said, look, if you want to come on and have a chat, because Ray actually did come on and have a chat, but it was before there was a court case actually involved. So you have to be very careful.
Yeah, he didn't come on here now.
No, he didn't come on here.
No,
we didn't come on here. Although if he wants to come on here, we'll have him on here and get his side of the story. But so
maybe we should send him an invitation.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
So we asked Fiona if she wanted to come on. So we've left her with Fiona. If she wants to come on, she can do. Is more than happy to have her on and talk about what happened there. But allegedly knocking down the people that that vote for you is not really a good thing, Ray. Not really a good thing. And there was something on Facebook with Ray again. Did you see the thing on Facebook about? And there was a reference to Father Ted.
No.
About funds resting in the account. Did you see that thing?
No, I didn't see
It
that.
was on Facebook. I didn't see the whole story, but...
So he has some funds resting somewhere, has he?
Well, apparently the person on Facebook... I'm not saying this,
Allegedly.
by the way. Allegedly. I'm not saying this, by the way. I've just seen it on Facebook. And apparently the person on Facebook who put it up there said something about bands that weren't paid for St. Patrick's Day parade, and there was money, sitting in a bank account.
Oh,
Father's
yes.
head, you see.
Do you know, no, sorry, I didn't see the post, but my wife said to me today, she actually did say something to me about, did you hear about that politician? And I was in the middle of doing something, like, very important, like, probably peeling the potatoes, making the dinner, And I said, no, what? And she said, one of the politicians, he's claiming expenses. And one of his expenses is that he organised a couple of bands, to play at a St. Patrick's Day parade. And he's claiming expenses for that. But the bands didn't actually play.
Ah, I see.
Yeah.
Isn't that fraud? Isn't that what they call fraud?
Smells like it.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, we allegedly, we say allegedly. Right, next week we have James Gilliland, and we're going to get James on, and we're going to get an update on what's been going on with James, and have hopefully, some positive news. But there are positive things going on, not as many as we hope, but there are positive things going on. So we'll talk to James and find out what's going on from his side of the fence. And just a reminder about Dermot, who needs some funding from the National Citizens Movement regarding his case. He needs to raise €400 for a report so we can use it in the High Court, and this is going to affect everybody. I mean, it's a major interest for all of us. Now, we know Irish Water, they're not going to be looking for payment for a year and 3 months, I believe, Ruth Coping, TD said. And so we don't know. Planet X could be in by then. You never know. You have to see what happens. But so it'd be great if any funds that you have, if you can, support Dermot at the National Citizens Movement and get that report up and running for Dermot. But that's really the news we have. And what do you have planned for the week?
Nothing really.
Nothing really.
I'm sorry. No, it's just going to be, staring at chemtrails and, soul searching and contemplating belly buttons and stuff like that.
Right.
Speaking of chat rooms, I want to apologise for ours. It's been up and down like something throughout the evening. We want to apologise for that. We're not sure exactly what's going on. Someone has suggested that we may be getting cyber bullied or cyber blocked. And one of the posters actually said earlier on that they had 200 meg broadband and our site was very, very slow in loading. So we can only assume that maybe there is some sort of hacking or something cyber-ish going on.
It's probably a denial of service attack or something like that. They're bombarding the website or the IP address for the website. That's what normally happens. You see, when you have information that's important to the people and people want to hear it, they don't want you to talk, and so they do things like that. What can you do? But at least we have the podcast available, so if you don't hear the live show, you can hear the podcast tomorrow or be ready in about an hour after the show. And then we'll have it on YouTube as well, so no problem there. Okay, so during the week I'm going to try and sort out the time banking thing, speak to this company. If they're looking for money, nothing we can do. Going to have to try and design our own, but trying to get a programmer and getting their time is like trying to find hen's teeth. It's very difficult, But we'll soldier on anyway. So take care, everybody. Stay safe. To Sal and James. If you have any news, let us know. We do look at your links. We mightn't post them all up, but we do look at your links. So thanks a lot. Take care. Bye-bye. Okay, I want to thank everyone on People's Internet Radio for being so nice to the OYMers who joined you there this evening. Dot on PIR, yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to say, but I couldn't say it because it's a family show. Patrick Cullinan is on with Vin at 9 p.m. Stay tuned for that. We'll do it all again next week. So until then, take care of myself, Stephen George. Bye-bye.
Open your mind.